In this video, I'm going to show you how to manually trace a Python application using OpenTelemetry. So let's head inside and get started. Okay, so let's start with the very basics. Let's just define a Python function called add. It takes two parameters, first and second, and it just returns first and second. So obviously we need a way to run this. Say if name is main, then my return value equals add 11 and 3, and then I'm going to print out the result is return value, and if I run it I get the result is 14. Okay, nothing special there. Let's start adding the OpenTelemetry tracing because we want to trace how long it takes to add those two numbers together. So let's have a look at the OpenTelemetry documentation for instrumentation. I'm getting all of the commands that I'm copy and pasting from this page. So the first thing you need is some libraries. So pip install OpenTelemetry API and pip install OpenTelemetry SDK. So if we go to PyPi, and have a look at the current versions. Now, as far as I'm aware, API and SDK always match. So API is 1.24.0 and SDK should be the same. Yep, 1.24.0. So I can create a requirements.txt file that looks like this. Again, this is a best practice to pin it to the versions. So I will do pip install -r requirements.txt, and mine's already installed, but you've now got the libraries. Okay, go back to the instrumentation page and it shows you how to acquire a tracer and a trace provider. So I'm just going to copy and paste all of this in, and I'll explain what all of this does in a moment. Okay, so this code gets a tracer provider, and then we get a processor. Now a processor is how we're going to process the spans. So in this case we're going to process the spans in batches, and we're going to log them out effectively or export them just to the console, just so that for debugging we can see what's going on. And then we join them two together by adding the processor to the provider, and then we set the trace provider onto the trace. So this is all just the wiring. This is copy and paste. Every project is going to be pretty much the same, and then we can get a tracer. Okay, so once you're here, you have everything you need to actually start tracing stuff. So now the question is, well, how do I trace my add function? Well, two ways. I can use a with block, or I can use a decorator. I'm going to use a decorator. So if I just say @tracer, remember that's what this is called on line 16, start as the current span, and I'm going to call it add. Okay, so basically every time that function is called, the trace is going to kick in and create a new span. So now if I run my code and scroll up a little bit, you'll still see the result is 14. That's what we were expecting from before, but now we get this JSON blob kind of output to the console. And this is our span. So what this is a subsegment of a web request. If you think about a web request that might traverse 5 different layers in a stack or 5 different microservices, this is one of those microservices, or even smaller, it's one method in a microservice. So you'll see it has a name, it has context values, trace ID, span ID. I'm gonna have another video that walks through each of these fields separately, but suffice to say that each time I run this, we're going to get different span and trace IDs, and I'll explain that again in the video linked above right now. We have a start and an end time, and we have a status code and various other things like resource attributes and other metadata. So that's it. We've started to generate OpenTelemetry data from our Python application. Join me in the next video where I'm going to flesh out this span a little bit more to add some more context data, and I'm also going to start exporting that from the console into a backend tool. So join me there.